It is logically impossible for the universe to have always existed. Here, I will explain why it is logically impossible for the universe to have always existed, focusing on the dynamic nature of matter, energy, space, and time, and the impossibility of traversing a past-time infinite history to arrive at the present moment. The nature of the universe: matter, energy, space, and time. The universe is composed of matter, energy, space, and time, all of which are dynamic and constantly changing. Matter and energy interact in complex processes, from the atomic level to the grand scale of cosmic events. Space is not a static backdrop but is intricately linked with time through Einstein's theory of general relativity, forming the space-time continuum. This continuum itself is subject to warping, expansion, and interaction with the gravitational forces of massive objects. Time, especially, is central to our discussion. It is the dimension through which events unfold, marking change and movement. Time is necessarily dynamic because every observable phenomenon, from the expansion of the universe to the motion of subatomic particles, happens in time. The flow of time allows for cause and effect relationships, progression, and the distinction between past, present, and future. The idea that time itself is dynamic and linked to the material universe poses a significant problem for the notion of an eternal or past infinite universe. To claim that the universe has always existed is to claim that an infinite series of past events has occurred. This introduces the paradox of traversing an infinite sequence to reach the present, which, as we will see, is logically incoherent. Traversing an infinite past, the impossibility of reaching the present. The central problem with the idea that the universe has always existed lies in the concept of a past infinite timeline. To understand why this is a logical impossibility, it is important to grasp the nature of infinity and its implications. Infinity is not a number. Infinity is not a quantity that can be counted or traversed. It represents an unbounded, limitless concept. A series of events that is infinite has no end and no starting point. If the past were infinite, it would mean that there is an infinite number of moments or events that have already occurred leading up to this present moment. The problem of traversal. In a universe with a finite past, you can imagine time as a line with a definite beginning, like counting from zero upward. But if the universe's past were infinite, we would have to imagine time stretching backward without end. The question is, how could we have reached the present moment if an infinite number of past moments needed to be crossed? To cross an infinite amount of time to reach any particular point, in this case, the present, would require completing an infinite task, which is impossible. You cannot complete an infinite number of steps because by definition, infinity is never ending. Actual versus potential infinity. There is an important distinction in philosophy and mathematics between actual infinity and potential infinity. Potential infinity refers to something that can grow indefinitely but is never completed. For example, the counting of numbers, you can always add one more. Actual infinity, on the other hand, refers to a completed infinite set. The idea of an eternal universe requires an actual infinity of past events, an infinite series that has been completed up to this present moment. However, an actual infinite cannot exist in the real world of time and events. Time cannot have an infinite number of past moments because there is no way to complete such a series. To better understand this, imagine a series of dominoes stretching infinitely into the past. Each domino represents a moment in time. If the series were infinite, the first domino would never have been pushed over, because there would be no first domino. Consequently, the current domino, representing the present, could never fall because the entire process could never begin. Therefore, an infinite past is logically impossible, as no present moment could ever be reached. The dynamic nature of the universe requires a beginning. The universe is necessarily dynamic, space expands, matter moves, and energy transforms. Each of these processes requires time. If the universe has always existed in a dynamic state, then it has been undergoing change for an infinite amount of time. However, as we've seen, an infinite amount of time cannot have passed. This leads us to conclude that the universe must have had a beginning, a finite point at which time, matter, space, and energy came into existence. Modern cosmology supports this conclusion. The Big Bang Theory, widely accepted in the scientific community, describes the universe's origin approximately 13.8 billion years ago. This theory posits a moment of creation when time, space, and matter came into existence together. Before the Big Bang, there was no before, in any meaningful sense, as time itself began with the universe. The theological perspective. God as the necessary cause. From a Christian philosophical and theological perspective, the impossibility of an eternal universe further points to the necessity of a first cause, an uncaused, eternal being outside of time and space, which brought the universe into existence. This being is God. God is eternal, not the universe. Unlike the material universe, which is bound by time, space, and change, God is eternal. This means that God exists outside of time and is not subject to the dynamic processes that characterize the universe. The theological concept of God includes the idea of timelessness or atemporality. God does not experience time as a sequence of events but instead exists in a perfect, unchanging state. God, as the eternal cause, initiated the universe at a finite point in the past. Creation ex nihilo. Christian doctrine holds that God created the universe ex nihilo, out of nothing. This aligns with the philosophical argument that the universe cannot have always existed. If the universe had a beginning, it requires a cause that is not part of the universe itself. God, being outside of time and space, is the necessary explanation for the universe's existence. Conclusion. A beginning to the universe is necessary. It is logically impossible for the universe to have always existed. The dynamic nature of matter, energy, space, and time demands a finite beginning. An infinite past would require traversing an infinite series of events, which is impossible. Therefore, both philosophical reasoning and scientific evidence point to a universe that had a beginning. This aligns with the biblical understanding of creation. The existence of a finite universe with a beginning suggests the need for a transcendent cause, a timeless, spaceless, immaterial, and eternal God. Far from being an abstract argument, the impossibility of an eternal universe leads us to the profound conclusion that the universe is not self-existent but is the result of divine creation. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and comment below if you agree or would like to add your thoughts. If you would like me to respond to your comment, please make a level 1 comment directly below the video. I will respond to all polite level 1 comments even if it takes me a while, due to other commitments.